What do you mean, jump into the boat? It looks far away!
Go, 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 go! I'm at the other boat! The little boat!
The movie begins with Walter Mitty, a middle-aged man living alone. He is in his small apartment, going over his expenses and savings. The numbers worry him. His savings have dropped to around $8,000. Trying to distract himself, Walter visits a dating site called eHarmony and looks at Cheryl's profile. Her bio makes him smile. He thinks about sending her a wink, hesitates, then finally clicks the button. An error appears. He tries again and again, but it keeps failing. Disappointed, Walter gives up and heads to work. On his way to work, Walter calls eHarmony customer support to ask why he cannot send a wink to Cheryl. Todd, the support agent, tells Walter that his profile is incomplete and asks about his life. Walter says he hasn't done anything special or noteworthy. Suddenly, Walter breaks into a run. He jumps into a nearby building and rushes out with a dog in his arms. The building explodes behind him. Cheryl runs toward him, relieved. Walter hands her the dog and a prosthetic leg he made for it. Impressed, Cheryl tells him that this is exactly the kind of man she is looking for. Everything stops, and it is clear Walter had been lost in his thoughts, completely zoned out. Walter arrives at work and learns from a colleague that the company has been acquired. As they head inside, his sister suddenly shows up with a clementine cake made by their mother and wishes him a happy birthday. She mentions an upcoming audition for a play, but Walter reminds her that she was supposed to help their mother move as they had planned. While Walter chats with his co-workers, Ted joins them and announces that he is in charge of the acquisition. He mockingly calls Walter the cake man and asks what he does. Walter responds with a joke that puts Ted in his place. Everyone around laughs when suddenly Walter realizes that he was zoned out again. He then tells Ted that he manages the photo negatives at Life magazine. Walter walks into the pantry and spots Cheryl and zones out again. In his mind, he is an elite mountaineer, confident and fearless, effortlessly charming her.
The ice, Jace. She moves like a woman. I'm Walter. Mitty.
The fantasy is cut short when Ted calls out, "Ground control to Major Tom." He flicks a paperclip at Walter, snapping him back to the present. Embarrassed, Walter picks up his cake and quietly heads to his desk. Walter enters his dimly lit office, where Life magazine stores its photo negatives. On his desk is a new roll of film from Sean O'Connell, one of the last photographers still shooting on film, along with a small package. Hernando worries about the acquisition, but Walter asks him to focus on preparing Sean's negatives. Inside the package, Walter finds a wallet and a note thanking him for years of careful work. Sean writes that negative number 25 is his best work ever, calling it the quintessence of life. As they check the roll, Hernando realizes that number 25 is missing. Just as they speak, Tim comes in saying they need negative 25 for a meeting. Walter tells Hernando to find it and keep its absence quiet. Walter joins the meeting where the executives share difficult news that the upcoming issue will be the final one for Life magazine, and some employees may lose their jobs. The room falls quiet. Ted steps in and says that despite the bad news, it is a privilege to publish the very last issue, and that the cover photo will be Sean O'Connell's number 25, the quintessence of life. No one seems excited. He turns to Walter and asks for the negative. Walter replies that it is being processed. Walter approaches Cheryl and asks if she knows where Sean O'Connell might be. Cheryl says she isn't sure, explaining that Sean is always on the move, but that she will find out and get back to Walter. Walter and Hernando search for clues by studying the negatives before and after number 25. Walter prints a few images and sits near a water fountain, trying to spot a pattern. Cheryl approaches and says she is still trying to track down Sean. She sees the photographs Walter has and says that it often gets easier after cracking the first clue. As she walks away, Walter calls out and tells her that he built a beautiful sculpture as a side project. Cheryl looks impressed. Walter then realizes that he had once again drifted off into his thoughts. Walter's mother's new apartment is too small to fit the piano his father had once gifted her. Even though it costs him more, Walter chooses a villa so she can keep the piano. His sister, Odessa, gives him his favorite childhood toy, Stretch Armstrong. While packing their mother's belongings, they come across Walter's old, unused backpack and a travel journal his father had gifted him. They also find old photos of Walter with his father. His mother talks about how Walter started working at a young age at Papa John's after his father passed away. He receives a phone call and rushes back to work. Back at the office, Hernando gives Walter another photograph that may be a clue. Written on it is the name of a boat, Erkiksneck. Moments later, Ted walks in and again asks about negative number 25. Walter repeats that it is still being processed. Ted suddenly grabs Walter's Stretch Armstrong toy. What follows looks like an exaggerated comic book-style fight between the two, wild and over the top. Walter snaps back to reality. He had zoned out again. Ted coldly warns him that he needs number 25 soon and walks away. Soon after, Todd from eHarmony calls again, urging Walter to complete his profile. Walter runs into Cheryl, and she invites him to the park to meet her son, Rich. She asks about Sean O'Connell, and Walter admits that they have never met in person despite working together. While Cheryl is on the phone, Walter bonds with Rich by showing him a few cool skateboard tricks. Cheryl tells Walter that Peg had sent a copy of Sean's check to Greenland and that the boat named Erkigsnack is also from Greenland. Walter zones out again and thinks that he has the Benjamin Button syndrome, and he and Cheryl grow old together.
Thank you for such a wonderful life. Goodbye, Walter.
Cheryl brings him back to reality and tells him that Ted was wrong and that the song Major Tom is about courage and exploring the unknown. Back at the office, Ted once again demands negative number 25. Hernando is in a state of panic, saying he can't find number 25 and wonders if Sean even sent it. Walter looks at a photograph of Sean and imagines Sean calling out to him. Something finally clicks. Walter gets up, picks up his jacket and briefcase, heads straight to the airport and flies to Greenland. In Greenland, Walter rents a car and drives to a small seaside town. At a local pub, the woman behind the bar tells him that mail is often delivered to ships by helicopter. A large drunken man is singing loudly in the bar and forces Walter to sing along. Walter refuses, and things start to get tense. Walter notices the man's thumb and ring and recognizes them from Sean's photo. The man explains that he recently flew Sean to the Erkigsnack and is about to fly there again to deliver a package. He invites Walter to come along. Walter declines. He then zones out and imagines Cheryl singing Major Tom and remembers her words about courage and exploring the unknown. Acting on impulse, he runs and jumps into the helicopter as it lifts off and is surprised by his own boldness. They fly over the vast ocean and reach the ship. Walter nervously asks how they are going to land. The pilot replies that they won't and tells him to jump onto the small boat below. Terrified but determined, Walter jumps towards the ship instead of the small boat and crashes into the ocean. The ship's captain tells him to stay calm and assures him that the small boat will rescue him. Before it can reach him, a shark attacks. Walter manages to fight it off and is pulled to safety. The captain tells Walter that Sean left for Iceland by boat just a few hours earlier. A crew member named Ari helps Walter by giving him dry clothes and a piece of clementine cake that Sean had given to him. As Walter unwraps the cake, he notices the paper is actually an itinerary. It shows that Sean is heading toward a volcano in Iceland. Ari tells Walter that they will reach Iceland the next morning.
It's a volcano.
The next morning, they dock in Iceland. Ari tells Walter that the volcano is close, but there is only one bike available, so he needs to hurry. Walter takes off, jumps onto the bike, and rides through Iceland's stunning landscapes. Todd from eHarmony calls again. Walter tells him that he jumped out of a helicopter into the ocean, fought off a shark, and is now riding through Iceland. Todd is impressed and says he will update Walter's empty profile. Walter gets distracted and crashes. He abandons the bike and takes off on foot. Walter reaches a hotel and notices a family in the parking lot. He asks the children for directions to the volcano, but they don't speak English. Somehow, Walter trades his beloved Stretch Armstrong toy for the kid's skateboard, planning to give it to Cheryl's son. Inside, the hotel is completely empty. Walter goes to the back and finds the owner hurriedly packing his bags. When Walter asks about Sean, the owner says he helped book a flight for him in a nearby town, about 15 minutes away. Walter rushes off as the owner shouts after him in Icelandic. Walter faces a long, winding road leading to the next village. He rigs together makeshift slide gloves and sets off on the skateboard. As he rides downhill, he begins to relax and enjoy himself. For the first time, he feels free, as if life finally gave him the chance to enjoy what he loves. When he reaches the village, he finds it is completely deserted. A siren suddenly goes off. The hotel owner from the previous town appears and frantically tells Walter about the impending volcanic eruption. At that moment, Walter spots a plane flying overhead with Sean standing on top, heading straight toward the volcano. They speed away just as volcanic ash and rocks rain down, swallowing the road behind them.
Holy shit! Faster! Faster! Go faster! Oh my God!
They escape the volcano and reach another village. Walter steps into a Papa John's and calculates his expenses. He worries that his savings have dropped to just $3,500. Walter calls Cheryl and tells her that he saw Sean but couldn't keep up with him. He opens up, explaining that he started working at Papa John's at 17 after his father died, as they had very little money. He shares how early responsibility altered the person he wanted to become. Walter returns to the office to find many employees gathered outside as movers clear out their stuff. Ted spots him and angrily tells Walter that he's fired. For once, Walter speaks up, saying he has handled over 1 million photo negatives without losing a single one. Ted makes a sarcastic comment and walks away. A coworker then tells Walter that Cheryl has been let go. Walter goes to Cheryl's house, but he is surprised when her ex-husband opens the door. Feeling deflated, Walter quietly leaves the skateboard he brought for her son and walks away. In the cab, Walter slips into another fantasy, imagining himself as a guest on the Conan O'Brien show, confidently talking about how he won Cheryl over. Walter returns home to find movers delivering his mother's piano. He tosses the wallet Sean sent him in the bin and sits down. He studies one of Sean's photographs, searching for clues, when it clicks that the piano in the photo is the same one his mother owns. His mother explains that Sean visited their home a week earlier and that she had mentioned it to Walter at the time, but he had zoned out. She also recalls Sean talking about warlords, the same word written on the paper that wrapped the clementine cake on the ship. Walter searches online and realizes that Sean is headed for Afghanistan. His mother tells him that Sean spoke highly of him and that he should finish his work. Walter finally packs the old backpack his father gave him and heads to Afghanistan. Walter finally begins writing in the travel journal his father had given him. His journey unfolds as he rides in a crowded bus, walks past a massive waterfall, receives a mountain blessing, shares his mother's clementine cake with warlords, and climbs vast Himalayan peaks. At the top of a mountain, Todd from eHarmony suddenly calls. As Walter talks, a man in camouflage signals for him to be quiet. It's Sean. Walter asks him about negative number 25. Sean explains that the negative was inside the wallet he gave him and that the photograph itself was the real gift, not the wallet. Walter admits he threw the wallet away and, frustrated, tells Sean that he was unprofessional to send number 25 in a wallet and that it was now lost. Walter asks what the photo was, but Sean simply replies that it was a beautiful photograph without revealing more. Sean calmly accepts the loss of the photograph and invites Walter to play soccer with the locals. They join them, play soccer in the open field, and forget everything else for a while. Walter lands in Los Angeles and is detained due to travel restrictions to Afghanistan. With no one else to vouch for him in LA, Walter asks security to contact Todd from eHarmony, and they let him go. Later, over a Cinnabon and coffee, Walter and Todd talk about Walter's journey. Walter mentions that his drifting into fantasies hasn't been a problem lately. They also talk about what Walter might do next. Walter, his mother, and sister are selling the piano because they can no longer afford the villa's rent. His mother then hands Walter the wallet Sean gave him to keep the check. She tells him that she always kept his stuff safe. Walter smiles with relief as his mother has quietly saved the day. Walter walks straight into the office and into a meeting. He hands over negative number 25 and calmly tells Ted that people have worked hard at their jobs. He adds that even if Ted's role is to let people go, he should still be polite and considerate. Later, in the elevator, Hernando asks what was in negative number 25. Walter replies that he never looked at it. Walter sits in a coffee shop, updating his resume with everything he has experienced on his journey. He then receives an email from Rich, thanking him for the skateboard and sharing a video of him practicing new skateboarding tricks. Walter collects his severance check and notices Cheryl nearby. He walks over and as they talk, he asks about her husband, and Cheryl tells him they are no longer together. Encouraged, Walter asks her out. As they walk together, they stop at a newsstand. Both look on with quiet amazement at the final cover of Life magazine. The image is of Walter sitting by the fountain, carefully examining photo negatives. It indeed is the quintessence of life. If you enjoyed this recap, please like the video, share it with someone, and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this.